There seems to be something worryingly petty about the current Labour Party. The House of Commons has now formally appointed the members of the House for the membership of the Scottish Affairs Committee, and each party has its own internal processes for allocating who is going to sit on the committee. There are still a few vacancies as far as I can see. Patricia Ferguson, who is Labour, was elected as chair of the Scottish Committee in September. And so far, it seems to be Patricia Ferguson, Maureen Burke, Labour, Harriet Cross, Conservative, Lillian Jones, Labour, Douglas McAllister, Labour, Angus MacDonald, Lib Dem, Susan Murray, Lib Dem, Jack Rankin, Conservative, Elaine Stewart, Labour, Kirstine Sullivan, Labour, and then a vacancy, which I believe has now just been filled by an SNP person, but I'm not sure who that is, and I'm not sure why there's only one. It seems, despite their significant vote share in Scotland, whether you like them or not, it's neither here nor there. This is supposed to be a democratic institution. It's audacious and notably punitive. By monopolising 6 of the 11 seats, Labour has positioned itself to dominate the committee's direction, relegating the SNP to the sidelines, despite it representing a substantial portion of Scottish voters. This committee, traditionally a forum for Scottish MPs to challenge British government ministers on Scottish issues, has now been reconfigured into a stage for Labour to scrutinise the devolved Scottish government, essentially flipping its original purpose. Labour's decision to exclude a fair representation of the SNP based on seats won in the Commons signals a desire to silence a pro-independent voice in Westminster, casting it as a strategically political move rather than one in the interest of parliamentary balance. Furthermore, appointing an MP from Windsor, Jack Rankin, to represent Conservative interests is simply perverse for the Scottish interests of the Scottish Affairs Committee. The Reform UK have been upset that they weren't invited to the majority of the committees because they're so small, but the SNP is a different kettle of fish, really. And as I say, it doesn't matter whether you support the SNP or you support reform. These committees are supposed to reflect a broad selection from the House of Commons, from the various parties in the House of Commons, and to snub the SNP in its own backyard seems almost colonial. There's this colonial dimension to this affair, as if Scotland's governments were merely a topic of detached discussion. This reshuffling not only diminishes Scottish representation in the UK Parliament, but it also reflects Labour's unease with providing a platform for SNP voices that could challenge its stance on Scottish affairs. And as people who follow my YouTube will know, I have great fondness for Stephen Flynn, who I think is a wonderful orator. He's one of those like Robert Jenrick who's taken seriously the rubric that you don't read your questions and your answers in the House of Commons. You talk to the people. Too many people have their heads buried in paper because they're too stupid to have sat down and learnt their stuff before they start speaking. And though you know, if you've got a great deal to go through, yes, it's good to have a prompt. But these people, they may ask a question once every 4 or 5 weeks. That's enough time to sit down and learn it. And that's the respect due to the chamber. And for those people like Flynn, who week after week asked 2 questions in the Prime Minister's questions, he did it admirably. And Jenrick, shortly after the election, stood up and spoke for about 20 minutes without a note. And I thought that was impressive, as people, again, will know if they've followed my YouTube stuff. I'm not a friend of Jenrick's. I don't like him. I don't like what he says. I don't much care for the thought of him as leader of the Conservative Party. But equally, I don't like Badenoch. And this is a sort of Hobson's choice situation. And I'm very pleased that I no longer have any responsibility, that I'm not a member of the Conservative Party, and that I can say, a curse on both their houses, a plague on both their houses. But when it comes to the SNP, I think this snub will come back to bite the Labour Party in the backside. This is a silly approach to parliamentary democracy.